Here is the SKS Fight Gear tail of the tape. Shaun Marmas coming in at 5-5 at one knockout. He weighed at 135 yesterday, fighting out of Coventry, Rhode Island, and he takes on the undefeated Matt Doherty, 2-0 with 2 knockouts, 134.5 at yesterday's weigh-in. He fights out of Salem, Mass. Round number 1 underway, Shaun Marmas and Matt Doherty. Marmas in the black trunks with the with the blue stripe, rather. And taking on Doherty, who's putting his undefeated record on the line. And this is not an easy task whatsoever. Marmas is a tough fighter. He's been in there against just about everybody in this weight class and has given some guys some fits over the years.
Matt Doherty 2-0 in his career, all 2 fights, or both 2 fights rather, with CES, both by knockouts. Shaun Marmas 5-5-1 overall, Mike, but 1-2 in the CES cage. That win coming over Thomas Evans earlier last year, and his losses coming to Robbie LaRue and Hassan Abdullah, who we'll see later tonight in the co-feature against Rob Font. Doherty, his specialty seems to be knockouts. He has both his wins by knockout and plenty of amateur wins by knockout. A former amateur boxer. Marmas, on the other hand, in his 5 losses, Mike, he's only been KO'd twice, so we'll see if the fight ends that way for Doherty.
Certainly tough to stop. He knows how to get through 3 rounds and go the distance and give his opponent trouble in the process. Of course, he has a pretty good wrestling background as well, so we'll see if that plays a factor at some point during the fight. But Marmas, in addition to having that win over Evans, came off a loss to Hassan Abdullah, which again is a tough fight. We'll see him later on tonight against Rob Font. So he's taking on just about anybody in this 135 weight class, and this is another tough one here against Doherty.
And this is Marmas' first time actually in the bantamweight level. We saw him a few days ago at the press conference. He said he felt great, had no problem making the weight. Weighed in yesterday right at 135. So we'll see how the new weight class works out for him. Obviously, he's bigger than he was at 145, compared to the weight class. So we're going to see just exactly how the new weight class works out for Mambo Marmas.
Both fighters pretty active against the cage. Doherty tried to get that takedown, tried to hook the leg, but Marmas did a nice job stuffing it. And now he's got Doherty pressed with his back against the cage. Just over 3 minutes to go in round number 1.
One thing to look for in this fight, Mike, as we mentioned, Doherty with both wins by knockout. Shaun Marmas does have submissions by armbar and triangle. So right here where he's on his back, that's where it's a strong point for Shaun Marmas. So Doherty and his corner are going to have to be very careful tonight that he doesn't get caught or sucked into a trap where maybe he has Marmas on his back and that's where he wants to be.
No question, Marmas is no stranger to being having to fight off his back, and certainly that's the case right now. This is where Doherty likes to strike and maybe try to pin those arms down. If he can get full mount, he'll have Marmas in a heap of trouble. But you see Marmas in his ability to keep Doherty from gaining full mount and delivering a few right hands of his own. So again, you see that skill coming into play, the ability to fight off his back and not panic when he gets taken down. Doherty tried to land the left hammer fist, misses a little bit. Couple of shots to the chest. He was trying to flip Marmas at a point and maybe get him on his stomach and maybe try to take his back. But again, Marmas is so adept on the ground. Doherty dives in a second time. Just under 2 minutes to go in round 1. Right hand just misses.
Like a lot of time for bantamweights, especially in this region, finding fighters to spar with and to train with that are the same weight class could certainly be a challenge. We saw that with a fighter like Andre Sukamata, who went all the way down to Florida to find some training partners who are in that weight class, who we'll see later tonight. Doherty doesn't have that problem. He trains with guys like Kinboy, Soap Am, Pedro Gonzalez, guys who are 135-pound fighters who he can train with and spar with every time he's in the gym. So he certainly has the advantage, because when you're a bantamweight and you're sparring with featherweights or lightweights, the range could be different. The height and the weight's different, obviously. So the advantage that Doherty has, having these guys in the gym with him that are the same weight, same height roughly, same experience, that could really speak volumes in this fight.
No, absolutely. He definitely has the tutelage and he has the right partners to work with in preparation for a fight. Doherty lands that quick short left. Marmas still fighting on his back for most of this round. Doherty tried again with that right hand. Now another right, just missing. Marmas doing a nice job just ducking, getting his head back in time before he catches it on the nose.
Those hands really are just missing the chin of Shaun Marmas.
44 seconds to go in round 1. It's been a common theme here in round 1 from Marmas on his back, but certainly not out by any chance. Of course, it is hard to mount any offense when you're in this spot, and it's tough to score that round in favor of him. It most likely goes to Doherty if it stays in this spot. Though Marmas has 30 seconds to do something, he now flips and tries to gain control himself. And now it's Marmas on top with Doherty on his back for the final 18 seconds. We'll see if Marmas can empty the tank here and do something to turn the tide.
See Doherty trying to lock in that left arm of Marmas. Now maybe just ready to ride out the final seconds here of round number 1.
Yeah, not much doing there in the final seconds. Nice job by Doherty as well, fighting on his back. Round 1 of the books between Marmas and Doherty. Looks like we're in for a good one here. Let's listen in.
Stepping up to the cage now is She's from Colorado, Rhode Island, and she's a full-time student and activities coordinator at the nursing home and a liquor brand program.
If you can get up, you're winning the stand-up, all right? You're winning the stand-up. I want you to do overhand when you're standing up. Overhand, and when he comes in and shoots, I want the rising elbow on the way in. More luck. I want the rising elbow on the way in, all right? Overhand, rising elbow.
You hear Doherty's corner tell him to go for more leg kicks and telling him he's winning the stand-up. Interestingly enough, there hasn't been much stand-up in this fight, actually. It's been mostly on the canvas, but Doherty has been able to at least exert his will against Marmas and try to strike from that position. Not landing much. Marmas pretty elusive while on his back, and that's worked in his favor, but you'd have to give round 1 to Doherty just based on the aggressiveness and being able to get him down.
2 instructions there from Eric Grossman, the head corner for Matt Doherty. More leg kicks and come in with that overhand. So we'll see if he listens to the head coach of Redline Fight Sports Team here in round number 2. Interestingly enough, we're going to see also Shaun Marmas, if he can stay off his back during this second round. We mentioned that that's probably where he feels most comfortable, where 2 of his submissions are from. But he didn't look very comfortable there against Doherty in the first round, who a few times came very close to connecting on his chin with those long punches.
Yeah, despite his ability to fight on his back, he did look like a fish out of water, kind of just sprawling around trying to regain himself. And now here he gets the takedown early on, does Marmas. And now trying to drive those knees into the rib cage. But Doherty did a nice job turning his body to deflect it. So it's mostly going into his lower back. Marmas in the black with the blue stripe. And Doherty's in the black trunks with the white decal, the white and green. And now Doherty flips it. Nice reversal, gets Marmas on his back here in the opening 45 seconds of round 2. And we're back to that familiar position that we saw in round 1, where we can see if Marmas, or rather Doherty, can gain control, try to gain full mount. But Marmas, again, comfortable on his back. Elusive, to say the least. He's very deceptive. It's hard to keep him in one spot at the same time.
He's a long frame and some very long arms. You can see that he can keep Doherty away for the most part with that long reach he has.
Doherty lands a right to the back of the ear. He's just missing with these shots. He's catching them in certain spots, but not quite flush on the chin or on the nose. See, again, he's just coming up short. But in any event, though, he is aggressive here, Pat.
Marmas not moving much either. He's just barely getting out of the way of those punches.
3.5 to go in round 2. If anything, Pat, without a knockout or a stoppage, this can be physically exhausting to have to be in this position that Marmas is in, on his back, having to fight his way off. It does take a toll on your fatigue and your cardio, and if it gets to round 3, it's going to be a problem if he has to fight back from a 2-round deficit. And again, Doherty that time lands the right. That one didn't miss by much. That one just misses. Now a hammer fist right to the chin.
Boy, he's coming close, Mike.
It's certainly not a lack of effort on Doherty's part, but again, that long frame, that lanky frame and build of Marmas makes it so difficult for Doherty to get close enough to just land it with effectiveness.
Marmas, a full-time college student, now trains with Tom Evans, who coincidentally enough his lone CES win is against. After that fight, he started training with him. And you see Tom Evans here in the stands today cheering on his new training partner. Doherty coming off a second-round knockout over Johnny Campbell, a fight that started on Facebook, then went to a weigh-in that never happened, then eventually the fight that did happen, and Doherty won that fight by knockout. His pro debut earlier last year, he won by another second-round knockout over Terrence Swanson. So both fights that Doherty has had have ended in second-round stoppage. There's 1:42 left to go in round number 2. See if he can go 3 for 3 in the round number 2. And He's looking pretty good in this round again, Mike.
He does, and he's getting closer to Marmas now, where he doesn't have to wind up from full bore and hope to land. He's a little bit closer now, and he can land some shorter left, shorter right hands. And we'll see if he executes. He's got about a minute and a half to go now. And now there's an elbow. He's got to watch out for. Referee keeping an eye on it. And a big right. That one lands right on the forehead. Marmas taking some punishment here and there, but remains elusive, remains active at least while on his back. So no reason to separate him and let the fight get back to the stand-up position, which it does naturally here. And so now Marmas trying to turn the tide here and get Doherty against the cage. 54 seconds to go in round 2. We haven't had any wild exchanges like we had in the Adam Quit, Tunde Yodamusu bout, but we've had plenty of action through the first couple of rounds here. You've seen a real chess match of sorts between these two. And now Doherty gets Marmas down again.
Doherty doing a good job with Marmas's left arm. The crank behind his back and now putting him in a very awkward position.
This one's tough. It's not much Marmas can do here, but hopefully ride out the last 20 seconds. He doesn't appear to have any sort of choke set in. He's not in the right position for that. He's got the arm pulled back, which I'm sure is uncomfortable. Marmas just trying to hang on for the last 10 seconds or so.
Shaun does a good job of rolling out of it, at least for the last couple of seconds. He's going to get to see the third round, but a very strong round there for the Mantis Doherty. He finished that round very strong, and you see Marmas right now gassed as he goes to stand up. You're right, Mike. Spending 2 rounds like that, 10 minutes, where you're literally defending yourself the entire time can be exhausting. And we're going to listen to his corner, Matt Santos, here.
Lady entering the cage now also represents Tillette Model Studios in Pawtucket. She's Mariah Sikorsky. She's from East Taunton, Massachusetts. Her career goal is to be a CPA, but she also hopes to pursue a music career as well. She's a very talented country music artist. Jimmy Birchfield's Classic Entertainment.
Well, regardless of what Santos says, Doherty has to keep himself off the canvas, no doubt about it. No matter how comfortable he is in that spot, he cannot win the round fighting off his back. And you could argue that he's down 2 rounds here going into the final round, and he's going to need to do something to try to win this one and maybe have to exchange and just keep the fight on its feet. If he does get into a stand-up mode, he's got a chance. But if he's on his back again, Doherty will have no problem riding it out for 3 minutes and just taking the W. So we'll see how that goes as round number 3 gets underway. Marmas again in the black trunks with the blue stripe. Doherty in the black trunks with the green and white decal.
You got to wonder about the game plan here for Matt Doherty. Maybe going into it, him and Grossman looked at Marmas and thought that, you know, Mantis is going to want to keep this standing, so Marmas may have put some more emphasis into the standing aspect of this game when Doherty looks very, very confident in his ground game. I mean, he has no problem getting taken down on the ground and then working from that position. So maybe he felt confident switching the game plan up, maybe deceiving Marmas here a little bit, taking him down the ground and fighting down off his back.
And it certainly hasn't been a example of lay and pray. They've both been pretty active while on their backs, and at times Marmas has been able to reverse it and get Doherty on his back, and they've remained active. They're switching in and out of spots. They're rolling over. They're doing something, at least to the point where there's a lot of action despite not being much stand-up. So you've seen a real great chess match between the two, and now you're seeing it play out here in this first minute as both try to gain the upper hand in this critical third and final round. And now Doherty landing on Marmas. He gets him down and starts to rain down with the rights and lefts. But not much landing. Now he gets that right arm in under the chin. Not deep enough, I don't think, for any guillotine.
Well, good job by by Doherty. He went to go for the knockout there, and it might only be a matter of seconds here for Marmas.
Yeah, it looks pretty deep, and there it is. That's going to do it. So I misspoke. He did have that in pretty deep nonetheless, and now Matt Doherty gets the win. He gets the submission in round number 3. Big takedown to start it. Rained down with the rights and left. He softened up Marmas's defense a bit and got that right arm underneath the chin. Big victory for the Mantis, Matt Doherty.
Yeah, it was very impressive the way he switched from trying to go for the ground and pound to actually going for the chokehold, because where he was, he really couldn't swing that right hand up against the cage. So he did a very smart thing. Marmas was covering up, trying to defend the punches, and he did a good job of actually sliding his arm underneath his neck and getting the chokehold. And hats off to Matt Doherty, not only for winning the fight, but for taking a fight against a guy with 12 pro fights and only his 3rd pro fight. That just shows you the kind of heart and guts that Matt Doherty has, and certainly a lot of excitement around him in his rising career.
A big step up for Matt Doherty and a big win here at CES MMA 21.